Thank you for joining us for On Call for All Kids. Today, we're going to be talking about how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting adolescents and young adults. We'll be going over how more free time is affecting teens, what risky behaviors parents should look out for, and how parents can help their teens through this tough time. I'm joined by Dr. Jasmine Reese. She is the medical director of the Adolescent and Young Adult Specialty Clinic at JohnsHopkinsAllChildren'sHospital Hospital. And it's great to see you, Dr. Reese.
It's great to see you too, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
So the pandemic has been really tough for everyone, but especially teens and young adults. They've missed out on so much. Some of them missing out on their graduation ceremonies, end of the school parties, youth sporting events. So it's been really hard. How do you see that this is affecting them?
So we've seen teens really struggle to cope with this great deal and sense of loss that they've had with missing out on all of the things that you mentioned. They're missing out on seeing their friends as they usually do, and a lot of the team sports that they used to do, and even celebrations of graduation and celebrating others and other loved ones. And so we're seeing some teens really struggling with some mood changes, and sometimes this leads to engaging in behaviors and experimenting with things that maybe are harmful or unhealthy for them. And these might be things that otherwise they wouldn't have even thought of if they were busy doing the things that they usually do. So that's some of the things that we really want parents to be aware of, so that they can really have open conversations with their teens and make sure they stay safe.
Well, let's talk about that. Really, a lot of schedules are thrown off. Like you said, they're not as occupied. So how does having this less of a schedule affect their daily life?
So this lack of routine might lead to more virtual time, more chatting on the phone. That's the one thing that you can do to stay safe and stay in the home. So some of the behaviors that I want kind of parents to be aware of, they all start with S's, so a little easier to remember. So one of them might be sexting. So more virtual time, more time on the virtual platforms that exist might mean that they're having some inappropriate conversations or sending messages that they shouldn't be sending, even photos or pictures or videos. I mean, those are things that can really be saved and shared by others that might not have been the intention of the teen doing that or sending that. So just really making sure they're using social media and virtual platforms in a safe way. So we want parents to be aware of that so they have those conversations. I know screen time, we usually say less than 2 hours. It's probably a lot more nowadays because there's not a whole lot to do, but still taking the time to get your teens away from the phone for a little bit and doing some family activities together so that they are still having some other conversations and other things that they could be doing within the home and with trusted family members and siblings. So one of the things is virtual conversations they're having on the phones. Something else to be aware of is sexual activity. So just having that open conversation about safe sex practices, that's always a good conversation for parents to have with teens. Sometimes those are difficult conversations. So, asking your pediatrician or your adolescent health provider about how to navigate that conversation is always a good idea. We should all be practicing the guidelines, right? Like social distancing, not gathering in groups, but sometimes teens are having friends come over to the home, either in small groups or sometimes it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a partner. Sometimes parents are working and there's a lot of unsupervised time. So, curiosity, experimentation, just thinking about these other things that could be going on. We want to make sure parents know who's coming into the home and know what their teens are engaging in. We've seen teen pregnancy rates over the years actually decline, and there are some medical experts who are worried teen pregnancy rates at this time might actually increase. So we have access to contraceptive methods now and a lot of good reproductive health care. So, if you're worried that your teen might be thinking about that or engaging in sexual activity, this might be the time to have those kind of conversations.
And Dr. Reese, what other kind of behaviors should we be looking out for?
In times of stress, it's not uncommon for teens to start engaging or experimenting with substances. And so substance use is something that we want parents to be aware of. Experimenting with alcohol, smoking, vaping, or even using other non-prescription drugs might be something that your teens have access to even within the home. So if you're a family that has any of these products within the home, making sure they are stored away, locked away, where your teens or even young kids can't get a hold of them. Again, having those open conversations about the safety or the health effects that can really happen if your teens are experimenting with these things. So a teen's developing brain this is a really sensitive time for them. So having any of these types of chemicals enter into their body could affect their brain, could affect their lungs or their overall health. So making sure those things are really stored away. And lastly, self-injury is another one that we really want parents to be aware of. So as you mentioned, mood changes could be happening. Some teens are really suffering with depression, anxiety, a lot of this uncertainty and stress. One of the ways that some teens have found to cope with these kind of mood changes is self-injury or, for example, cutting of the skin. And so, of course, this is not the safest way to deal with your emotions or your stress. And so making sure that we are finding a good way to deal with those emotions. And so, again, seeking the guidance of your pediatrician or your primary care provider is always a good idea. If you're worried about your teen feeling depressed or isolating for many hours in their room, or they want their door closed and they're away from people, go ahead and check in on them, keep them out of the room, engage them in conversation or maybe some board games at home. So just making sure you're checking in and asking them how they're feeling and letting them know that you are a safe person to talk to.
And what about some actionable steps that parents can take if they're just really extremely worried about their teenager?
If they're worried about their teenager, one is really just asking them how they're feeling. Acknowledge that there is this sense of loss and asking them how they're feeling about it. Sometimes teens don't share those emotions with parents for fear of rejection or even feeling like they might get in trouble if they tell them how they're feeling. So really letting them know that it's okay to talk about those emotions. It's okay to feel some sense of stress. And then what are ways that we can deal with this as a family? But of course, sometimes parents are feeling like, I don't know what to offer my teen. And so this is a really good conversation to bring up to the pediatrician, to the adolescent healthcare doctor, or to their primary care physician.
Well, Dr. Reese, thank you so much for joining us today. The pandemic has really had an effect on so many people, and including young adults. So we appreciate your insight today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for watching. If you have a topic idea you would like us to look into, you can comment below right here on this video. And you can also get more information from our website. It's hopkinsallchildren's.org/newsroom. And you'll find a lot of great information there as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.